Yes, we're live. You're good to go, Prof.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning even to some of you. Thank you so much for joining our annual webinar. This webinar is hosted by Sustainable Transportation Research Group, STRg, and KZNDoT Chair in Sustainable Transportation at UKZN. This year's version is titled Advancing Smart Transportation Innovative Solutions for Sustainable Infrastructure. And we are delighted to have 5 high-profile speakers to share with us their expertise. Before we start, let me welcome everyone joined us from outside South Africa. We have attendees from 9 different countries, and we have around 200 people registered to attend this webinar. So thank you so much for that. Let me quickly share with you this quick presentation. So can any of the panelists just confirm that you can see my presentation? Alan?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right. So
you need to make it full screen.
Yeah.
It is full screen.
Yes.
Okay. So can you see it in full screen, Sally?
No, it's not full screen yet. If you go to the bottom of your screen, there's that little TV icon, bottom right.
Presentation mode.
Okay, what about now?
No. Yes.
Because I already now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You've got 2 screens, so we're looking at the wrong one.
So do you see 2 screens?
No, the second screen is the slides, next slide.
Yeah, but that's the back end. We want the front end.
Let me quickly do this. Okay, quickly do this. And now,
No.
2 screens or 1 screen?
Neither.
No screens.
No screen. Okay, let me go again. Sorry for that technical issue. Okay, and then we just adjust the settings. Now?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay, great. So, guys, welcome again. I'll quickly answer the question, why are we interested in smart and in sustainability at the same time before presenting our speakers. So that's a warm welcome again from myself as STRg group leader and chair in sustainable transportation at UKZN. Our chair has so many objectives. Part of them is to share knowledge. So basically our activity today is try to share knowledge with you, and this knowledge is not particularly developed by our research group, but as you will see, developed by so many scholars around the world. And I think we will all benefit from that, which will help in building our human resource capacity, especially in KZN area. So our group is interested in so many areas of sustainable transportation research, especially climate change, gravel roads, sustainable road materials, smart transportation, road safety, and so on. So we are running research which is related to most of what you will hear today. So that was one of the ideas of sharing this webinar with you is also for us to get more knowledge, which we can integrate into our research portfolio. For 2024, our research chair is focusing on 4 different projects. The first one is improvement on gravel roads. The second is advancing resilient transportation for climate change mitigation. Third is maintenance and pavement management systems. And the last one is public transportation. However, we revisit those areas on annual basis. And based on that, we also offer opportunities for bursaries and postdoc research. So why smart and why sustainable? So definitely the sustainability development goals are very important for all of us. And from our transportation area, we can think of goal number 9 and number 11 as our target to achieve. So there is a huge interest in sustainability, and of course, we are not excluded from this interest. South Africa produces around 1% of the global emission in the world. And considering the size of the country, this is really a significant amount. Our transport sector used to use about 50% of the energy in the country as of 2021. I can only assume that this figure went up significantly after the developments happening in N2 and N3 in the region recently. So we are subsequently producing a lot of emission as well and contributing to the climate change in the globe, not only in the country. So what happened over the last few years in South Africa, in Western Cape and in Durban, basically a lot of floods and drought at the same time in different areas. So the climate change became a challenge. And it is a challenge for sustainability. So there is a need to mitigate climate change conditions and look at smart solutions, and sustainable solutions became very important. So we need sustainable roads, but we also have less budget. So the solution is to look at smart solutions. So today we will hear from our guest speakers what is their own understanding of smart, because smart is just not technology. It's about other things which our guests will talk about. And of course, they will have a good link between smart and sustainability in so many areas related to transportation. So our presenters, we'll start with Professor Dilip Das. He is from UKZN. He is the co-chair of the Sustainable Transportation Research Group. His presentation is entitled Enhancing Smart Mobility Solutions for Urbanization Challenges in the Cities of the Global South. He is a civil engineer and planner, specializing in urban and transportation engineering and planning, with expertise in applied system analysis. He had a PhD in urban and rural planning and has over 20 years of experience in teaching and research. He's a professional engineer with EXA. His interests include smart transportation, smart sustainable cities, infrastructure, transportation planning, climate change adaptation, multi-criteria decision-making, and engineering education. He has authored around 200 research publications, including journal articles, books, and conference proceedings. So he is recognized as established researcher by NRF in South Africa and SANRAL, and he is also served as an editorial board member of several international journals. Without further ado, Professor Das, please go ahead with your presentation. Let me stop sharing. So, Prof. Das, can you please share your presentation?
Thank you, Mohammed.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Let me share my screen.
Okay, great.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Mohammed.
Full screen mode, please.
How do I go to full screen?
Not in full screen.
Is it not the full screen?
No, not.
Okay.
Okay, click the full screen button and then
I
go to
click-
display settings.
Yeah, I went to the full screen button, slideshow. It's showing me this.
I just try to pop up and then goes back to normal view.
Screen.
Okay, now go to display settings at the top. At the top. No, display settings, not this one. Next one.
This one, yeah.
Yes.
The duplicate size, so swap presenter view and slideshow.
Yeah, duplicate, I think. Duplicate.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. You are
Good
good to go.
afternoon.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Muhammad has said, my name is.
Sorry, before we start, Dilip, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but questions can be written in the Q&A session, and then we will attend to them after each presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. And thank you, Muhammad, for giving me the opportunity to start the webinar. I'll be discussing on enhancing smart mobility solutions for urbanization challenges in the cities of Global South, which is a research being conducted, or the research is being continuing by our STRg research group. Mohammed and myself work on this area. This is basically a research. This is a presentation based on a research book chapter published in Cambridge by Cambridge University and the continuing research. As you know, the focus of the study is in Global South cities. You know, in Global South cities, we have a serious problems related to road transportation and traffic. We have road problems, road physical infrastructure problems, traffic problems. That includes congestion, high volume of traffic, accidents, traffic safety issues, and high carbon emissions. That leads to make our transportation system, particularly our road transportation system, highly unsustainable. In addition to these physical or transportation related problems, the implications are highly significant on social and economic and environmental context. You will find we have high environmental pollution. For example, in cities like Delhi, Mumbai, the environmental pollution is so high that even the people are suffering from different diseases and different health ailments. Therefore, there is an argument that come up to make the system smart and sustainable. In other words, to make our transportation system efficient so that we'll have high accessibility and high mobility as well as efficient. Our mobility system become efficient, but without having those social, economic, and environmental challenges or environmental pollutions. So there is a argument for making our transportation systems smart. We can argue that our transportation system is already smart because of availability of GPS system or GIS system and ITS system. But still, they are not enough to reduce our environmental challenges as well as the economic and social implications. Therefore, there is a research gap particularly in the Global South cities to understand what strategies are needed for successful creation of smart mobility in the Global South cities, and what barriers are there that hinder the creation of this the smart transportation system. If you go through literature, you'll find most of our works or the studies are in the context of developed countries, particularly Europe and North American countries. Therefore, there is a limited study that has been conducted in this area in Global South, for example, in Africa, in South Asia, or in China. Of course, there are a few studies that have been conducted in China, but China also have these smart problems. Smart transportation related problems. So there is a distinct research gap to evaluate the barriers and strategies that are needed to understand to make our smart mobility, make our system smart. So the objective of the study was to understand or explore how the smart mobility system is working in our cities and what barriers we are facing and what strategies we should follow. This study is basically based on literature review and to a certain extent the case studies. We have taken about six cities in South Africa and 2 cities in India. So 2 of the Indian cities are, if you look at this, one is in eastern coast and another is in on the western coast. We took these 2 cities because of my acquaintance, and we have already done work there, so it's easy to get some data. That's why we consider these 2 cities, and these two cities are highly growing cities as well as having severe transportation related problems, and they are also in the forefront of making the city smart. They are 2 of the smart cities in India, recognized smart cities in India, and they have a quite good transportation system or emerging transportation system. Similar, on the other hand, in South Africa, we have considered major cities such as Cape Town, Port Elizabeth, then Bloemfontein at the center, Johannesburg and Pretoria at the in the north, also Durban in the east. So these are the cities we considered as our case studies to understand how smart transportation system is working there. So to understand smart mobility, we need to understand that it entails using the logistics and smart systems that are associated with transport to improve the traffic flow and mobility of the inhabitants. In other words, it's the accessibility, local or international accessibility is enabled by seamless physical transportation by using advanced digital technology, including ICT and integrated ITS. So the goal of smart transportation is to reduce the pollution, first air and noise pollution, then reduce the traffic congestion and improve people's safety as well as improve travel speed and decrease travel cost. So this is the main aim of smart transportation. And in other words, it will create a smart and sustainable city or contribute to the creation of a smart and sustainable city by using digital technology, including ICT and artificial intelligence. So while understanding smart mobility, the smart mobility has 6 elements. If you look at, one is the smart infrastructure, smart mobility modes, connectivity and robotics, data and traffic management, personalized services, and logistics. And this leads to efficient transport traffic flow, real-time information and decision-making, affordable transportation, traffic safety, enhanced traffic safety, reduced environmental stress, and inclusivity and equity. So while there are 5 elements or 5 areas which are highly technical, but there is one area that is inclusivity equity that is also a part of smart mobility, which is the most challenging part in transportation, smart transportation. While evaluating the smart mobility impact areas in case study cities, if you see, we have a matrix here, the smart mobility impact areas and smart mobility elements, and here the different cities, like 5 cities from Johannesburg, Pretoria have taken one as one region. Then so there are 5 city regions in South Africa and then 2 cities in India. And on the left side, we have our traffic smart mobility impact areas and leading to smart mobility elements. The tick marks suggest that they are available. The cross marks indicates that they are not available, and there are circles indicate that they are available to a certain extent. So if you find in majority of the cities, smart transportation elements in those cities are not available, except ride sharing under personalized services. Ride sharing is available everywhere. Then real-time information management system, we can see under data and traffic management, is available in Johannesburg, Cape Town, Durban. They are not available in Bloemfontein or Port Elizabeth. Similarly, if you look at bike sharing, they are available in Bhubaneswar and Pune in India, but to certain extent in Johannesburg, Pretoria, and Cape Town. So similarly, intermodal logistics, under logistics, intermodal logistics solutions are available to certain extent in all cities. Similarly, connected logistics are available to certain extent in all cities. So in other words, we find that, here. So under smart infrastructure, most of the cities lack smart infrastructure, except smart travel lanes in some of the cities, and energy efficient solutions are not available. BRT, IFTN, they are available in some cities such as Johannesburg, Pretoria, and Cape Town, but it is present in Durban to a certain extent. Bloemfontein, it's not present in Bloemfontein, but in India they are available. But autonomous driving, vehicle-to-vehicle connections, they are not available in any of these cities. However, GPS is available. So if you look at this, we'll find that certain elements are available in certain places. For example, Johannesburg has smart travel lanes, redesigning dedicated areas, BRT and IRTN, real-time information management, freeway management system. This is quite a significant, available significantly in South Africa, then rights. In Cape Town, similar things are available. Durban, except BRT or IRTN, all others are available. But in Bloemfontein, you find only ride sharing is available, and so in Port Elizabeth. But in Bhubaneswar, in Bhubaneswar and Pune, we have designated, dedicated areas are available, BRT is available, but new protocols and integrated billing system is available in Bhubaneswar, which is a part of smart transportation in Bhubaneswar, but it's not available in Pune. And ride sharing is available in both cities, and bike sharing is also available in both cities. It does mean that in some elements are available in some of the cities. That means there is a potential for smart transportation, and there is a effort, conscious effort to make the system smart in those cities. So the potential benefits we found in the cities are there is a reduction in travel time in congestion with enhanced traffic safety that we found. And there is a bit of operational efficiency, seamless and integrated transportation system we found in some of the cities. There is improved accessibility in transportation for all demographic that we have found in cities like Bhubaneswar and Pune, also in Cape Town. And there is a decreased emission and environmental footprint. That is the potential benefits of smart mobility we have found from these cities. But the barriers we found are financial constraints. There is high cost of technology and infrastructure, so the cities are not able to create the needed infrastructure as per the demand. And there is a need for digital transformation. So digital infrastructure is lacking in many of the cities, or not up to the requirement in those cities to make the system or transport system smart. There are some challenges, operational challenges to implement and manage these transport systems. But most important challenge barrier we found is that it's equity and accessibility, inclusivity issues. There is a digital divide in the cities. Some people are highly accessible to data and connectivity, whereas some parts of the some sections of people do not have that access. So in order to access smart transportation, we need data and connectivity, which is digital connectivity, which is not available. Therefore, there is issue with inclusivity. So that is one of the major social issues we found. So based on that, we found the strategies which can help these policy frameworks, that means specific and tailored regulations and policies to support smart mobility is needed. That means the municipalities or cities need to have specific policies or strategies under the within the policy, national policy framework to enhance their smart mobility or smart transportation system. Then integration of cutting-edge technologies such as ICTs, IoTs, and IS, IAI in addition to ITS. ICTs are largely used, but there is a it has been seen that IoTs and Internet of Things and AIs are still not largely used, but people are looking into it, how to use them to improve the transportation, smart transportation system. But this is regarded as a possible strategy to improve the smart transportation system. Then investment is a key issue, as I have already spoken about it, that investment in infrastructure is not enough, and municipalities or cities do not have that much of resources to invest in smart transportation infrastructure. More importantly, we need to have investment in infrastructure, and the most important strategy from my point of view is that involving people and like public engagement or stakeholders engagement in planning and designing and implementation of the solution. The reason is, for example, while assessing the smart transportation system in Bhubaneswar, we find that they have a very good bike sharing system, seamless integration with bus system, bus, train, and bike sharing system. However, after a few months of implementing bike sharing system, people do not people are not using the bikes. The reason are there is a hot climate, hot and arid climate. The cost of bikes are high. Then the topographical terrain conditions. So it really didn't work out, and so they have to downsize the bike sharing system. So even if we provided a smart solution, it really didn't work, and people were never been involved in that process. So that's why it's, you can say, partially succeeded or partially failed. So public engagement is more important in planning and co-design and implementation of smart solutions, smart transportation solutions. So to conclude, in Global South, smart mobility offers significant benefits for urban mobility in Global South. We understand that, and we need some policy changes, and we need some inclusive policy making and continuous innovation, as well as collaboration with stakeholders and public engagement or inclusive engagement. So this study is continuing. We hope that at the end of the study, the findings will help or guide the policymakers or transportation planners to guide and help, and maybe in their decision making to contribute to develop smart, sustainable urban environment. Thank you. Can you hear me? I can't hear you.
Prof, I can hear you.
Yeah, now I can.
I think everybody else is muted.
Mohammed, I cannot hear you. I can hear Alan, but I cannot hear you. No.
Now?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I was saying that you talked about policy frameworks.
Yeah.
And the need for policy changes. So basically, you are comparing between South Africa and India, and both do have different policies. However, they have same common interests as part of the BRICS. So in your opinion, what you think is needed in the policy framework side?
You cannot develop smart transportation without making your city smart. The first thing is you have to make your city smart. And smart transportation or smart cities are symbiotic relationship. So either you do smart city, then it will help you in making smart transportation. And if you are making smart transportation, then you look at smart cities. So they are symbiotic and having feedback relations. So when you make policy, you must go beyond your sustainable cities and then make the city smart. The first policy changes, what I feel, is that you need to first think about smart and sustainable cities or sustainable smart cities. That is the first policy. And then you have to prioritize what exactly you are looking at. Is it whether it's because smart cities, if you look at, there are several characteristics. For example, in Europe, they take followed 6 characteristics: smart economy, smart transportation, or smart mobility, smart people, smart environment, smart governance. But every city cannot be smart in all respects. So you have to focus on a combination of them, depending on the priorities and depending on the strengths. Then you have to, based on that broad framework, every city has to have their own policy or own strategies. So depending on the potentials they have, the priorities they have, the demands, they have to create their strategies. So yes, I do understand South Africa and India have 2 different policy frameworks. In India, there is an overarching policy framework to make cities smart. In this regard, smart transportation is important. So they invested in transportation, smart transportation. But in South Africa, the framework is sustainable cities. And sporadically, they are looking to make some cities small, some cities smart. So yes, we are making our transportation system smart, but I don't see that the transportation system, for example, the real-time information system which we see, is not integrated with the smart cities framework or in the city infrastructure. So firstly, you need to integrate your smart transportation strategies with smart city strategies. So that is what I see. And second thing, what I emphasize is involvement of public. If it is not being used or people don't accept it, so there is no point of doing it. That is what I found.
All right, thank you so much. I see a question from Ronald. It's with the huge amount of traffic on our roads, especially with the heavy truck transportation. Is there any thinking around moving this into rail transportation? Will that not be smarter?
No, rail transportation is a part of whole smart transportation process. As I say, if you see, there is another area in smart transportation area that is called logistics. So in the logistics, you need to be intermodal. We need to have intermodal logistic solutions. So and rail is a part of that intermodal logistic solution, and we need to have a balanced, freight movement system. Currently, as Ronald is saying rightly, that majority of the freight moves through road. That's why there is a heavy traffic on the roads. So if you move to rail, some of the traffic freight to the rail, perhaps the traffic congestion would be reduced, and that would rather make this system smart than and moreover sustainable than not smart.
Okay, there is a hand from Prof. Pride. So Prof. Pride, can you unmute?
Yeah, and can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I did join late. I was in a Senate meeting, so I may have missed the beginning. So this question is probably not aligned to maybe what you presented, but it's a question anyway. Do you consider the advent of flying vehicles, flying cars as being part of your strategic smart?
Currently, Prof, I do not know that any city in Global South, through my literature review or case studies, any city is considering that. So, smartness also changes with or varies with context. So in the Global South, perhaps it's not in the agenda currently. Yes, the connected vehicles, V2V, are there, but flying vehicles are not a part of agenda in the Global South cities for now, as far as my knowledge goes.
Okay, I accept that, but you've got the situation. Sorry, yeah, come in. Sorry, but you've got the situation in Singapore and you've got the situation in Dubai where they are now testing out flying vehicles for people who are landing at the airports, getting them very quickly to their destinations. In London as well, they're testing this out because of the congestion and that. So I think it could be quite a good area also for deployment of parcels, goods. UAVs have become very popular and they've been used by Amazon. So it's something that I think is quite important. Thank you.
Yeah, Prof. That is the area we can study. But however, regarding the UAVs, we have made a study on UAVs, and UAVs are really helping. But at the same time, they are creating a lot of unintended challenges. They're bringing a lot of unintended challenges. But it's an area really worth of investigating. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you very much, Professor Dutt. For the sake of time, we'll stop there. And if there are any other questions, please, colleagues, drop it in the Q&A session, and Prof. Das will be answering them as we go. Dilip, can you please stop sharing?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Okay, colleagues, our next presenter is Professor Diugaratis. Just one moment, please, let me share. Not sure why my presentation is not sharing now. Yeah, okay, it's Professor Diugaratis Eustace from University of Dayton in the US. His presentation is titled Urban Mobility Innovations for Sustainable Cities. He holds a PhD in civil engineering, specializing in transportation engineering from Kansas State University in USA. Joined the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering and Engineering Mechanics at the University of Dayton, Ohio, USA as an associate professor in 2005. Currently, he is a professor and the chair of the department. He is also the director of the Transportation Engineering Lab. Prior to that, he was a consulting engineer with URS Corporation, now AECOM, in Florida. His research interests include traffic safety, traffic operations analysis, intelligent transportation systems, emerging mobility technologies, connected and automated vehicles, travel demand modeling, urban transportation planning, non-motorized transportation, and statistical applications in transportation engineering. So, Dio, without further ado, please share your presentation.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, let me find where my file is. Okay, dead.
Okay, we can see it. Go to the full screen, please.
Okay.
And display settings.
Okay.
Duplicate.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank-
good to go.
okay.
Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Thank you very much, Professor Mustafa, for inviting me. And again, I'm Dale Eustace. I go by Dale, the greatest Eustace or Dale Eustace. As Professor Mustafa said, I'm a professor at University of Dayton in Ohio. And I've been in the US for about 25 years, but I was born and raised in Tanzania, East Africa. So my talk today is about urban mobility, innovations for sustainable cities. You can see there should be an overlap between my presentation and Professor Das's presentation. So Professor Das was more on the smart cities, and I am on the sustainable cities. And these two areas, or which are new and more like a buzzwords, are very related, and they share many similar things. So maybe very quickly I can say that there are important innovations which are basically aiming at the same objectives. I mean, they're very close. Maybe I can say very quickly, okay, smart cities and sustainable cities are closely related concepts, but they differ a little bit because of distinct focuses. Both aim to improve their living conditions and reduce negative impact on the environment. Okay. That's where they intersect. They aim to improve urban living conditions and reduce negative impacts. So smart cities emphasize the use of technology, data, digital infrastructure to improve efficiency, quality of life, and city services. So their goal is to create a city that operates more effectively by leveraging modern technology, such as Internet of Things, we call IoT, big data, okay, AI, and automation. On the other side, sustainable cities focus primarily on environmental, social, and economical sustainability, with the emphasis on reducing carbon footprints, conserving natural resources, and creating an equitable society. So both cities very much include transportation as one of the important part of their objectives. So therefore, a smart city uses smart transportation systems, such as real-time tracking of public transit, dynamic traffic signals.
Sorry?
Yes, yes.
You are on the first slide. Still we
Yes,
don't
yes, I know for sure. I know for sure.
Okay.
I'm
All right.
trying to create.
So you didn't change the
Yes.
slides yet.
Yeah, I'm still on
Okay.
the first slide. I'm trying to make a difference between Professor Darcy's topic and mine, which are very related. Give an overview first before I go into my presentation.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, so I was trying to make that because I know there's a lot of confusion and people mix them up between sustainable cities and smart cities, which are very related. Yeah, so both of them depend very much on transportation. So there's smart transportation and sustainable transportation. So you're gonna see there's a lot of overlap between my presentation and Professor Lass's presentation. Thank you very much. Let me go to the second slide. So what is a sustainable city? It is an urban area designed with the goal of minimizing its environmental impact while promoting high quality of life for its residents. Okay, so therefore that's what I was saying on my opening statement. Okay, so these cities aim to balance economic, social, and environmental sustainability through efficient use of resources we have, the green infrastructure, and innovative policies. So you can see we are really not very much emphasizing on smart cities idea, but we borrow smart cities ideas in our process because we want to be balancing economic and social environmental sustainability. Okay. So we have 5 key characteristics when we talk about sustainable cities. Okay. So we look at environmental sustainability. Then we look at efficient transportation. That's where smart transportation comes in, and also sustainable transportation. We are looking at resilient and smart infrastructure. Remember, transportation is part of the infrastructure. Okay. Also on social equity and inclusion. Here we are looking more to make sure everyone in the city, everyone in urban areas is included. No one is left behind in this society. Everyone is involved and everyone is taken care of. And lastly, economic sustainability. Okay. So those are the 5 key characteristics of a sustainable city. So for us, we are more on your transportation side. Therefore, I'm going to go into that. Okay. What are in urban mobility innovations? There are several have been going on over the world. Some are in different stages. Some are already started. Some are still in development. Some are in between. Okay. So urban mobility innovations are essential for creating sustainable cities. So it is a part of the, like you have a body, you have a human being, a body of sustainable city, and then you have parts of it. So like different parts of the body. So transportation is one body of the system. Okay. So this system should be efficient, environmental friendly, and accessible to all. So talk about equity and inclusion. Therefore, when urban populations grow, environmental concerns become more pressing, which is all over the world. Big cities are growing and growing every day. So cities are increasingly adopting new technologies and strategies to improve mobility. That's where smart transportation comes in, because we're embracing technology at the same time. Okay. So we're going to talk about key innovations in urban mobility, which have been going on all over the world. So I'm going to mention some of those. Probably most of you know most of these. Okay, they are not new for some of you. The first one is electric vehicles, EVs, which have been basically in production already. Okay, so here I'll talk about electric buses and taxis. We are more in this case, we're looking at those which can carry more people, trying to reduce the dependence of single driving cars on the road. So therefore, that's why we want to be a sustainable city. So one of these is the electric buses and taxis. So this reduce the greenhouse gas emissions, lower pollution, and decrease noise levels in urban areas. Also, we need to have charging infrastructures, because those electric vehicles need to be charged. So charging infrastructure should be developed. Fast charging, very efficient charging infrastructures, which should be all over the cities to charge electric vehicles, as they need that instead of using gas and petroleum products. Okay. Also, we talk about micromobility solutions, okay, which are also electric vehicles. So you have e-scooters and e-bikes, can be shared, electric scooters and bicycles, which offer convenient low-emission transportation options for short trips. Therefore, you don't need only this. That's what we call shared. You can just use them as you need. Okay. These services are often integrated with the public transit, reducing reliance on cars for last-minute connectivity. We call the first mile and the last mile. Also, number 2, we talk about micro-mobility solutions. Now, these ones are not electric. These are human-powered bicycles, but sharing bicycles. You don't need to own those bicycles. You can share. Okay, use it as you need. So cities are investing in bike sharing systems to encourage cycling as a sustainable and earth modes of transportation, which in the US are still struggling that. I know Europe is a big thing. They have been in advanced situation here, but in the US are still struggling, trying to make this more available and acceptable to most people. So these programs often include docking stations at strategic locations throughout the city, convenient for everyone to access them. The third one is about public transit innovations. Okay. Bus rapid transit, BRT. Everyone knows about this. These are systems that offer high capacity, efficient bus services with dedicated lanes, reducing travel times and improving reliability. So we look at this as a way of reducing cars on the roadways and congestion. So BRT is a cost-effective alternative to rail systems, particularly in developing cities. Also, we have smart transit systems on the public transit innovation side. Okay. They are real-time tracking, mobile ticketing, and integrated transit apps, and hence the user experience make public transportation more accessible and convenient. So therefore, you can easily get a ticket. You don't have to go to the transit station, starting buying and getting the queue and the line trying to get the tickets. So you can have your ticket in your app, in your phone. So therefore, you can just make it easier to go in and out from the bus. And then you have autonomous vehicles. Here we're not talk about cars and individual cars. We're talking about shared transit autonomous vehicles, which are driving on their own. So we have shared autonomous shuttles. Okay, autonomous shuttles are being tested in many cities. The solution for last mile connectivity around the world. Many countries are interested in this type of vehicles. Okay. So these electric self-driving vehicles can operate on fixed routes, reducing the need for personal car ownership. Also, we have AVs in freight and logistics. This is the area which is still a little bit not much developed, but testing are going on all over different places. AVs in freight logistics, we have autonomous delivery vehicles and drones can optimize urban logistics, reducing congestion and emissions associated with goods and transport. So therefore, you don't need really to have a driver bring your delivery at home. So this is probably the future where we're heading to. Also, number 5, mobility as a service, COMHAS, which is big in Europe. Also in the US, we have this coming in, and also probably we use more a different terminology we call MOD, mobility on demand. They are very much related. Okay. So these integrated platforms. So MaaS platforms integrate various transportation services, including public transit, ride sharing, bike sharing, and car rentals into a single app. So you have an app in your phone, so you can really use 4 or 5 different modes on your way. Your app can just use the same ticket you buy, which is connected to your phone, and take a transit bus or a train, or from there you take a ride share with the same app, the same ticket, and then you get up there and take a bike or go in a car rental without really making other transactions on the way, making it much more efficient. Okay. So users can plan, book, and pay for multiple modes of transport seamlessly. The operator can be different from each mode of transportation, but they are so connected that you use the same app, the same ticket, or same payment. Okay, this is a illustration of MaaS, and this comes from one of the chapter book we wrote for ACE 2 years ago. Okay, you can see the app in the middle, so you can go to different modes without making extra payments or making changes, paying here and there. So one app takes you from point A to B in the city using different modes on your way, as long as they're connected. That's what MaaS is all about. Okay. So subscription also are variable, subscription models. You can subscribe, okay, based on your usage. For example, could be monthly fees, okay, or weekly, depending how much you use those modes of transportation. For example, if you work and you go to work every day, so it's more convenient to have a monthly subscription, so that every day you just go, okay, just use a phone and go, because they're already paid. And then you have smart traffic management. In this case, we have different options or strategies. For example, adaptive traffic signals. These are smart traffic signals that use real-time data to adjust signal timing based on current traffic conditions, reducing congestion and improving traffic flow. Therefore, the signals can recognize the congestion in one leg of the intersection and adjust the green time accordingly. So they're very, very smart and very efficient. Also have what we call congestion pricing. This is another strategy, whereby pricing for road usage can be implemented, especially during peak hour when the roadways are congested. This encourages drivers to use alternative routes or modes of transport, or reducing traffic congestion and emissions on the roadway networks. Also, we have the pedestrian-friendly infrastructures. So we have what we call car-free zones. Many big cities are creating these kind of zones. Some cities are creating pedestrian-only areas in cities, especially in the city center downtown, or we call CBD, to reduce traffic, lower pollution, promote walking and cycling. Also, we have what we call complete streets. This concept involves designing streets that can accommodate all users. They are not only for cars and vehicles, but can make safe usage of the same streets for pedestrians, cyclists, public transit, and motorists at the same time. This focuses mainly on safety and accessibility. Another one is urban air mobility. Probably this is one of these which are not really in advanced mode, but a lot of these are being developed and tested in many different areas. There are electric vehicle takeoff and landing aircrafts. We call UAM, urban air mobility. This envisions that the use of small electric aircraft for short urban flights, potentially reducing road congestion and providing new transportation options in dense urban environments. I know these are tested going on, and some prototypes are really in use in many different places around the world. Also, those need to have ports where they're going to land. We call heliports and skyports for those UAMs. So these also have been developed, tested, those infrastructures which allow those UAMs to land and take off in urban areas. Also have sustainable urban planning. Again, sustainability should be planned. Should be planned. So we have transit-oriented development, TOD. TOD involves designing urban spaces that prioritize access to public transportation, reducing the need for cars and encouraging walkable mixed-use communities. In order to have sustainable cities, therefore, the usage of cars should be at a minimum. We try as much as possible to encourage people to use other modes of transportation, which in the process increase our ability to be smart and also earth at the same time. We have what we call green mobility corridors. These create green corridors that prioritize walking, cycling, and public transit, not only the downtown city center, but can be large area corridors, can be outside the city center, which enhance connectivity while preserving green spaces and reducing environmental impacts, make the environment more friendly, look good to look at, and also enjoy walking and having earth environment in the area. Also, data-driven mobility. That's where smart mobility comes in, basically, into our urban mobility. We use big data and AI to accomplish most of this. So the use of big data and artificial intelligence in urban mobility planning helps cities analyze travel patterns, predict demand, and optimize transportation networks for efficiency and sustainability. Efficiency, sustainability go together in urban mobility talk about here. Then you have smart parking solutions as well. Big cities have parking problems. So real-time data on parking availability coupled with dynamic pricing can reduce the time spent searching for parking, lowering congestion emissions. In many big cities in urban areas, you'll be surprised. Most traffic congestion are caused by drivers trying to find spaces where to park. They're moving around from side to side of the city, trying to find where they can park because everywhere parking spaces are full. So therefore, smart parking can indicate and let drivers know where spaces are available so they can go straight and park where they need to go, such as trial and error to figure out where spaces are available. Okay. Then circular economy in mobility. Vehicle sharing and recycling here means that car sharing and bike sharing programs promote the efficient use of resources by reducing the number of vehicles needed. Because you don't need to have your own car. Therefore, one car can be shared by different people because their needs may be at different times. And therefore, effectively, you know the car which is available and where it is, you go and use it right away. Okay. So additionally, recycling programs for old vehicles and bicycles contribute to a circular economy. Also, second life batteries. Batteries from electric vehicles can be repurposed for energy storage in buildings or grid applications, extending their useful life and reducing wastage. So therefore, recycling is something which is highly recommended for sustainable cities. Okay. So we have seen some of these different innovations going on all over the world currently. Okay. So let's look on few benefits of urban mobility innovations in a summary form. So reduced environmental impact. We said at the beginning that's one of the main reasons, main objectives of sustainable cities. Okay. Reduced environmental impact. So by promoting low emission and zero emission transportation options, these innovations help cities reduce their carbon footprint and combat climate change. We know the issues about climate change. We know the impacts, and Professor Mustafa in the opening talk, he talked about that. Okay. Improved quality of life. Again, this is another objectives of sustainable cities. Innovations like car-free zones and green corridors contribute to healthier, more livable urban environments with cleaner and air and more recreational spaces. So we get healthy people, okay, who need less medication, live longer, and that's what we want to see in people who can be even more productive for the economies of our countries. Okay. Reduce environmental impact. By promoting low emission and zero emission transportation options, these innovations help cities reduce their carbon footprint and combat climate change. Okay, I'm sorry. This is that slide was replicated twice. I'm sorry for that. Okay, enhanced accessibility. Innovations in public transit like MaaS, okay, which means mobility as a service, or MOD, mobility on demand, and micromobility make transportation more accessible, reducing inequalities and improving mobility for all city residents. That's when you talk about inclusive mobility. Make all people in the city, the residents, to have transportation options, okay? Equitable and inclusive transportation solutions. Economic efficiency. Efficient transportation systems will reduce congestion and travel times, leading to economic benefits such as increased productivity and lower transportation costs. You will see many big cities, especially in developing countries, how much time people spend on the roadway going to work because of congestion. And that is wasted time and reduced productivity. On concluding remarks, I have maybe 3 points I'm going to just conclude here. Urban mobility innovations are key to developing sustainable cities that are resilient, equitable, and environmentally friendly. By embracing these technologies and strategies, cities can address the challenges of urbanization while improving the quality of life for their residents. Lastly, as technology continues to evolve, the integration of these innovations will be critical to achieving sustainable urban mobility. Thank you. That's the end of my presentation.
Thank you so much, Leo, for this wonderful presentation. And I think you proved a very good point when you talked about sustainability, and Philip talked about smart. And I think from your presentation, we can see very clearly that there is no border between the two. They are very much overlapping. We can acknowledge that they are not the same, but we can't really ignore that they are significantly overlapping all the time. I see that we have one question from Lucky. He says that in South Africa, we currently struggle with most basic services like electricity and water supply. So what are the possibilities of having sustainable cities with smart mobility in the immediate future? I know you have been in the UK for a long time, but I think also your background from Tanzania can help in the answer.
Yes, if I understood the question clearly, the issue here is that sustainable and smart transportation, as I mentioned at the beginning, I said smart cities and sustainable cities are like a body, a human body, with many parts of it. So you cannot be a whole human being without your parts of your arms, hands, and stomach, whatever you had. So therefore, transportation, smart transportation is part of it. So we expect also, we'll talk about smart infrastructure there, water resources, water supply, and all other things like that, electricity, should be part of that. So we are here talking about just one component of the sustainable city, or one component of the smart city, which is transportation. Very, very important, but not sufficient element. Should be combined with other components together. So therefore, yes, we expect that people on that side, because we are not on that side, we are transportation people here, but people on the water supply, people on the other energy supply should also be part of it. Okay, should be part of the system, should be also contribute into these smart cities and sustainable cities.
Yeah, thank you so much. I would like also to add that, it's very important for developing countries to look at their resources and their priorities. So as important as it is to move towards sustainable and smart cities, it's also important that we get the basics right. So we don't have the luxury to wait. We have to work on two parallel lines between solving the immediate problems and also look at the current needs of moving forward. There is a hand from Prof. Pride. Glenn, can you unmute, please?
I have it unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation. I thought it was very interesting. I just have three comments. They're not necessarily questions. The first comment is thank you for showing us the UAVs and the flying cars, which I spoke about. So I think it's a good innovation that's coming, and I spoke about that already. The second point I want to make is that with electric vehicles, the electric scooters, which you've been seeing quite a lot of, they're starting to ban them all around the world, and goes against a little bit of what we're trying to achieve, or you're trying to achieve, because by banning them, now you're taking away a type of transportation, a shared type of transportation. And the reason for that, of course, is because of safety reasons. Paris has just been the latest city in the world to ban electric scooters. And then the third thing I want to say is I'm surprised you don't see more escalators and travelators in city centers. You see them in the buildings, but you don't really see them on the pavements or in the streets. And I think it's quite a good way of moving people if you're in a very congested area. I've seen them in Barcelona, the escalators going up hills and that outside. But travelators are used in airports a lot, you know, when you go from one terminal to another, but you don't really see them in cities. And I'm not sure why. It could be because maybe the maintenance and the cost is expensive, but it's a very cost-effective way, I would think. It's electric motors, and it's also doesn't use the pollution is very low to use travelators in city centers. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So
Yes,
Glenn,
thank you very much,
you?
Glenn. I think that's a very good point. Yeah, for especially to start with the e-scooters and e-bikes being banned. I agree with that. They became hazard and became people misuse them. I think they need more planning, how to make sure people use them, put some rules. I know the city of Cincinnati here in Ohio, they have been talk about that, how to make the rules, because they have been just becoming more hazards and accidents prone to young people and in the city. So I think more planning, and they maybe come back now with more planning from the city and providers of the services. So I'm sure they're going to come stronger after that. And also, yeah, about escalators, I think is a very bright idea. I don't know why they haven't been that useful, but again, I think as you said before, the maintenance, infrastructure, the cost, and who benefits, who pays for the infrastructure, and how they're gonna really pay back their money. I think there's still something which they may think and look at them and see how can be used widely outside the airports and buildings.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Dio, for this wonderful presentation. And colleagues, it's time to move to the next speaker. Our next speaker has a little bit different background, Mr. Alan Robinson from Sandra. He is going to talk about smart, and he put a quote about smart asset management. So we'll know his definition of what's smart there. Alan is a professional engineer with a PhD in civil engineering from University of KwaZulu-Natal, known as Natal University that time. Then a GDE from WITS and MEng from University of Pretoria. He has 37 years of experience in transport planning, particularly in the development of transport models for master plans and infrastructure design. He has extensive experience in preparing bankable traffic and toll revenue forecast for transport corridor design and financial modeling for a variety of local and international PPP and state toll road projects. Now he is the network planning manager at Sangral. Among of his duties is to chair the Sangral's national gateway reviews. In addition, he prepares a 6-monthly national toll portfolio revenue forecast and loan supportable by revenue predictions that are used to attract toll infrastructure funding in South Africa. Alan is the past chair of TIC Transport Division in South Africa. So, Alan, thank you for joining us today, and please share your presentation.
Thanks, Prof. Just to let people know, I'm going to try and need to share the screen first, don't we? Yeah. Let me just share that. And, right, can everybody see the screen?
Yeah, full mode, perfect. You are good to go.
Has it got me in it, or is I'm not there? Okay.
Now you are good to go.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you very much, and I really am honored to be asked to present here. But one thing I need to just clarify is I present not from more of a sort of a research thing, more from years of experience and common practice. And it over the years, it's made me question a few things. So just to start with, so let's see if I can get rid of that. Okay, I've got a thing in my screen. First of all, I'd just like to acknowledge there's a lot of material in here that comes from people who asset manage and specialists more than I am. And I'd just like to thank Stuart Russell and Ithame Mukandila for borrowing some of their material. And the other thing I will talk about again is I draw from experience. And just a disclaimer, the situations I might talk about are not based on specific projects. But if there's people in the audience that I've reviewed and you get a feeling of deja vu, that's just purely coincidental. Asset management, there's a couple of aspects of it, but I like to go down to sort of basics, because often this is where smart doesn't become very smart. And you'll see what I'm talking about as we go along. When we talk about asset management, there's a couple of things. There's a thing called an asset. There's the management of it, and this is what people call smart technology. The other thing I like about smart, and even previous speakers are talking about flying vehicles, and that's cool. That is it smart? I don't know. It's really cool though. And at Sanwell, we use some really cool technology, I think, in our asset management. Is it smart asset management? When I talk about smart asset management, I'm not talking about the technology. I'm talking about the philosophy. To me, that's smart. And the ability to sweat an asset. Okay, so in terms of, I will be talking about Sanwell, and I've lost one of the pictures, but that's fine. Obviously, we're talking about roads, and there are other, obviously, metros have bus lanes and things like that, but in our thing, we'll talk about roads. And I think my message is more principle-based rather than specific-based. So we've got road structures, we've got other drainage structures, which are culverts, we've got road furniture, toll plazas, and then we've got other things like what we call I think everybody will know the e-toll central operations center and the transaction clearinghouse. That's also an asset. So when we're talking about asset management, we don't just talk about the road, we talk about everything. But we focus on the roads. But as I say, the principle applies. Yeah, the old way of doing it with roads is that we used to build these things, and thousands of years later they're still there. Today we don't do it that way anymore. We build it to last because of cost. So cost becomes a very integral part of your asset management. Just to give you some idea of the Sanwell Road network, we currently are sitting around 24,500 kilometers of roads. We even have a few gravel roads nowadays. And the reason for that is we look at the whole network, and even if there is a road that would make a lot of sense as a good connector, we take it on, even though it's gravel, but we will pave it in a short period of time. So that's just where we are. In terms of the growth of the network in Sanwell, when they started, I think we were just on about 7,000, which is just your en routes. We are currently when I joined, we were about 22,000. 2022, 23, we got another 330 from the Western Cape, 12. 2024, we got some more. But I think our mandate at the end of the day will be going up to about 35,000 kilometers of road. But not all there at the moment. But so our asset base is growing considerably. So that's the asset. Again, these are the transfers we're about to get. There you go, another 5,000 kilometers is about to happen in the short period coming forward. All right, so let's go on to smart asset management. And the thing is, you've got to know what you have in terms of an asset. These are assets. One thing to understand how you're going to look after that asset, or a smart way of looking after that asset, and quantify the value of that asset. If you don't understand what its value is and how that changes over time, your asset management system, doesn't matter how much technology you throw at it, is not going to produce what you're looking for. So a smart way about going about it, and I'll go on to getting back to the basics. And I'll also come back to what's actually happening out there, and where we've really got to be careful when we talk about smart anything at this stage. So we need to make a means to calculate the asset value. We have general, we've got asset valuation procedures, and I'm not going to go through everything, but it comes with different parts of it, like the road bed and pavement layers, as I say, the structures. And there's various ways of calculating that asset value. We don't sell them, so what value does it have? It's got to have a replacement value. So we've got the replacement value. It's a gross replacement value, but it doesn't really take in the age. So we look at depreciation, impairment, that type of thing. Now, I'm going to go through this thing fairly quickly because I'd rather have questions at the end. So we look at this gross replacement cost based on the condition of the road, how big it is, and what it would cost. And how do we do this? Sorry, hello. Anyway, how we do this, we use technology. And we have this thing called advanced survey vehicle, which at 80 kilometers an hour uses video imagery, GPS, lasers, etc., and actually measures the current condition of the road. I will come back to that in a bit, but when we talk about technology and systems, this is where I'm very careful in the use of the word smart, because generally everybody uses it, but I find it is overused to try and make what you're selling more marketable. You have you do have smart objectives, but that's very good because it's an acronym. I don't have a problem with that. And I think in the beginning, somebody said, technology, is it smart? We have smart technology. And I always go back, so what does it mean? It's a high degree of mental ability. That doesn't relate to technology. That relates to people using it. And it doesn't matter what the technology is, if we don't use it properly, nothing's smart. And I'll go through, I'll just an example of what we find in practice. All right, at SANL, we got the ISO 55001 certification that we're in the process of going through. So we want to make sure that our asset management system is internationally to standard. So we're going through that process. There's a few hiccups here and there, but we're getting it. We're ahead of the game on this one. We have this thing called the Integrated Transport Information System, or ITIS. And we're talking about that vehicle. There's a picture of it on the side of the road. And this is some of the, just below that, there's some of the information, the imagery that comes out of that. And literally it measures cracks 3 millimeters wide, 80 kilometers an hour. It measures it. It measures the rutting. It measures the deflection as the wheels go over the pavement. So all this information is I mean, as I say, is this smart or is this cool? I think it's cool, but anyway. So we're getting tons and tons of information, and it's not just a matter of finding it once. We run this thing every couple of years. We try and go over every piece of tarmac once every 2 years, because then you get a time frame of the wear on the asset. This is some of the outputs we can get from that system. We look at the overall conditions. We look at the structures. We can do well, not so much from that's a different thing, but it's all part of the system. We look at crashes, but then on pavements, we look at the roughness over the whole thing. And this is very interactive on our system. If you click on any of these sectors on these diagrams, that opens up into a lot more detailed information of where it came from. So this is a very again, I don't want to use, it's clever. It's a very intricate piece of software with tons and tons of information, which then can come together to allow us to make very informed decisions. The information on the pavement is integrated with traffic information, which we get from nearly 4,000 traffic points around the network, so that we can actually look at the future life of any part of our pavement. And from this, we've got then a viewer that then looks at, I think most of you have probably seen this type of information before, and we can look at the condition of this road. And effectively, if I take this particular condition of this piece of road, you look at something like the IRI in 2020 is actually, it's pretty green everywhere except for the on the left-hand side. It makes a lot of, it shows that for the most part, edge breaks, yeah, okay, it's because it hasn't got paved shoulders, so we need to sort that out. But other than that, the condition of the road is not bad for its age. That's what it says. And then with all that smart technology, we get designs that come straight out of this catalog. You don't need any of it. You need a class of road. You need how many EATs and whether it's and something to do with the weather. And literally, unfortunately, we've got all that information. We've got all that smart technology, whatever you want to call it. And literally the designs come out of here, and often miscalculated. And so my point is, what's smart when it comes to asset management? If you've got all this stuff and you don't use it, it's not. But fortunately, at SANRAL, we have checks and balances that will then send this back for review. But I think my point is, which you've got to be very careful of, is we can do all the, let's say, theoretical analysis, we can do all the smart data collection, we've got all the smart systems, but at the end of the day, the user has to be the smart one. And that's just something I have an issue with. And when you're doing what I will call smart asset management, is you got to understand these little things, little gems of information, is how that thing ages and what you do with the money. In the top picture, you'll see that as the road deteriorates, you get where I've got a little ring with 1, and after a certain period of time, you can just do some minor maintenance, and it puts it back up to a very good condition. If you leave it a little longer, which is not a big problem, but then you have to do a rehabilitation. Those sort of points are generally around 10 years apart. Okay, that's fine. So now we know how it ages. And then just to give another picture, which I thought was very interesting, is that 75% of the time you lose about 40% drop in condition. The next 40% happens in the next 17% of time. So in other words, if you leave it too long, then you're really looking in trouble. We've done some costings. I see there are some costings on that one. We've done some as well. And if you look at the cost, if you do it on time, you're looking, call it 1x per kilometer. If you leave it beyond that, 3 to 5 years, it becomes 6x. And if you leave it 3 to 5 years after that, it becomes 16x. So now the smart thing is to use this to come up with a maintenance plan. What we do, we go back to technology, and we run a network version of HDM4, which looks at what do we need to do and what is the optimal timing to do whatever maintenance needs to be done based on all the information we've got. And that's how we come up with our maintenance plan. But ideally, we maintain what's in good condition. We don't use our first point of use of money is not on the worst roads, it's on the best roads. And by that way, it's a smart, that's where you put your smart money, because you get the most done with the least amount of money. Sweating the asset. So it's not just roads. And, you know, the survey vehicles not out, problems occur, so you end up with potholes. So you just got to look at that. Then there's infrastructure that we can repurpose. And then there's another thing called, this part of your asset is a road reserve for us, which is, when you think about it, it's a continuous, we're the owner of a continuous piece of land between Musina and Cape Town. We own all that land, and that has value. So there's an asset, and when you call about smart asset management, you can work on, is there any way of generating income from? Just to go through some of the pothole stuff that we've been talking about, we have created apps, again, all very smart. We can input from here, from cell phones, from people on using apps, from telephone calls. And the whole point of this is a war room that takes that information, collates it, and then sends it to the various municipalities to repair it. Okay, so as you say, the systems are actually really good. Are they smart? Is it fixing the problem? It's got the technologies all there, but implementation and getting it rolled out to actually fix it, that needs some smart people to make it happen. Just some idea of the call center statistics of, you know, there's 9,000 odd calls to municipalities to fix things. But again, that's the call. The actual filling the hole is more of a challenge. Repurposing, I think we all know our Gauteng freeways e-tolling has come to an end. Well, we now have gantries, it's an asset. We have buildings, like central, it's an asset. We've got satellite offices, which are assets. And now it's a case of, all right, we don't have GFIB anymore. What do we do with all of this? So we're looking at ways of repurposing your asset. So the gantries, we're looking, all the equipment's still on it. So we're still taking pictures of every single car that goes past. We still got ANPR on those gantries. And a lot of it, what they're using for now at the moment is law enforcement. So if there's hijackings or anything like that, vehicle of interest, we can track it through the system. The next thing we're working on is to implement speed over distance prosecutions. So those who feel it's lovely, even at night, where you've got 4 lanes of nobody, yeah, you're being watched. The building, in there is a thing called the TCH, which is literally a bank, which handled all the accounts. So now we're looking at account-based ticketing for public transport, parking. There's lots of other value-added services that we're looking at that can be, where payments can be channeled through the bank. It's probably the biggest bank on the continent, because we took on 2.5 million customers on day one, and it handled those sort of, I think it was 80 million transactions a month. Really not a problem. The customer centers, we're looking at using those to issue licenses, driver's license, car licenses, and that type of thing, to just make them more useful. The topic of EVs, what we're looking at is, along the network, is optimal spacing of charging points. And we're, again, coming back to this idea that we own a piece of land that stretches from the top to the bottom of the country. And what we, as a public entity, we're not here to make money, but we're here to protect the public. Now, often people come along and they say, we want a spot here. And generally, all those people want it on the busy roads. With EVs, it's not just on the busy roads. We've got to make sure that it happens all over the place. So we are working on ways in which we can use that influence to make sure we have coverage countrywide. So as you can see from this picture, if you're traveling in the Northern Cape, with an EV, you probably got a problem. We need to make sure that we can address that in the rollout. And that's from me. Thank you very much. As I said, my thing is not so much on smart, but questioning the word smart. And hopefully it gives some insight onto, let's call it, more practical application of technology as opposed to hanging on a word. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Alan. I see that you tried to challenge the word smart, but you also presented a lot of smart ideas there. So I think the point of smart as a philosophy cannot take away the technology. So thank you for that. We have a hand from Prof. Bright again. Glenn, I think you are free to talk.
Okay, good afternoon, Alan. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
First of all, how are you?
No, pretty good. Well, yes.
Okay. I'm going to take my engineering hat off, if you don't mind, and I'm going to put on my customer or my conventional hat on, because I have a concern. You know, us engineers, we always coming up with new systems and new ways, etc., etc. But if the people on the ground can't see it, then I think, you know, from our perspective as engineers, it's very difficult for us to convince them that we're doing a good job. Okay. So I'll give an example. You know, you've presented a good presentation. Your data gathering systems look amazing. You've got systems, and you're talking about all the smart equipment, etc. you got. But the thing is, are we ever going to get on top of road repair, road potholes, etc., or is it something where it's just something we're going to lose that fight? Because if you look at the average motorist, and I'm an average motorist like you are, you know, many of us are changing our vehicles away from cars because of the damage to our rims and damage to our cars to SUVs and just run around trucks, because the roads are so poor and we don't see an improvements in sight, unfortunately. And from my perspective, yeah, it's just I think one of the big issues is just the utilization of resources. When I see overseas how one man can take a pothole and use a machine and fix a pothole in a very short time, and one man can take a machine and do a whole road surface, but we have 5, 10, 15 people standing around and it doesn't really get done. Are we losing the battle? I'll leave it at that.
No, I have to say that.
Okay. It's better be a good answer.
What? No, I have to say that. No, look, it's a constant battle. You know, we look at SANRAL's. If you take SANRAL's network, the bits that we've had all along, majority of it is in good condition. Okay, so I think one thing we have to separate is, I will do it, is the SANRAL network from the rest. They are vastly different. On the roads that are being transferred to us at 3,500 kilometers, yeah, we started off the year, we had, let's say, 5 or 10% that from the last transfer that we're still getting to, which are in bad condition. We're literally now adding another 3,500 kilometers of bad road. So on average, if somebody says, yeah, but on average, SANRAL's roads are getting worse, that's only because we've added a huge amount of bad roads to it from authorities that haven't been able to keep up with the maintenance. What will happen will those roads, we do an immediate holding action, whether it's a patching, whether it's a thing, but it's basically just a holding action until we can put these roads, they're more accelerated on to get some sort of resurfaced thing. So And then once those are up to speed, we have, I don't know if you're aware, but on every road we have an RRM contract, the routine road maintenance contract, and it is a team that is responsible for making sure that a pothole is filled within 48 hours on SANRAL roads. And we have very tight controls on that. So, there's 750,000 kilometers of road in the country. We're on 35,000 of those, but we're getting to 35. We're about 25 at the moment. So are we winning on the whole thing? I don't know. Are we trying to make a dent? Yes, we are. And I think one thing, SANRAL, my view, I mean, from my CV, I've only been with SANRAL 9 years from the private sector, is if you think what they managed to do with what we've got to work with, I must say so myself, I'm impressed. So are we going to win? I think if SANRAL is allowed to just go forth and improve and expand and do what we do on a bigger and bigger network, I think there's a good chance we could improve, we could win this fight. Not everywhere. I mean, 750,000 kilometers of road is a mammoth task. But that includes a whole lot of the gravel roads. Again, you can't ignore gravel roads either. They just don't fall under the SANRAL portfolio. So, when it comes to municipalities and all that type of thing, I know that the DOT is battling just to get them to do the inspections so that we even know what we've got to play with. So yeah, it is a long fight, but it's sometimes you do think it's insurmountable, but I think we've got bigger challenges in the country, and I think we can get to the roads. And yes, I would not buy a car with low profile tires because I don't always drive on SANRAL roads. But yeah, I think it's something we can do.
Thanks, Alan. A very diplomatic answer. I just wanted to ask you one quick question. All I want is one word from you. If you had to choose one thing you needed most that you don't have, what would that thing be to improve the situation so you could accelerate your repair of roads, etc.? If there was just one thing you needed more, what would it be?
In the country, in the industry.
In the industry, to accelerate your ability to get all the roads done and dusted, and we could travel on them safely. What is it?
It's actually it applies across. The word is something that I would like to apply across let's say all the stakeholders that we deal with.
Okay.
And it's actually two words, and I think you can use it hyphenated, called common sense. The reason I say that, again, we've got technology, we've got processes, we've got things. If people just applied a little more common sense in terms of implementation of what we need to do, you will get a smarter solution. Let's put it that. Let me, as I say, trying to be diplomatic here. Applying smart technology in the wrong place is not going to produce what you thought it would.
Yep.
And yeah, so that's my diplomatic response to that question.
Okay, thanks. I'll leave it. I've taken your time. Sorry, back to you, Mohammed.
Thanks, Glenn. Thanks, Alan. If I may add here that we have a very unique challenge. As Alan explained, we have around 750, in fact, more than 750,000 kilometers in South Africa, which makes us number 11 in terms of network length in the world, with almost 80% of that gravel roads. So the conditions really vary from world-class roads like the ones SANRAL are managing to poorly serviced and maintained roads. And what challenge we are facing here also is try to balance between labor-intensive projects and using of smart technology. So this balance is not there yet, and I think if we manage to get that balance correctly, we will win the battle.
Yeah.
There was another hand from Sandra. I'm not sure if she is sorted or I just lost the hand. So Sandra, if you still need to ask the question, please raise your hand again, or drop the question in the Q&A session. Okay, I don't see questions. So Alan, thank you so much. I know you have a very busy day, so I appreciate that you made this time to join us and share your knowledge with us. So can you please stop sharing? Yeah, and let me.
Yeah, Prof. Thanks very much, and thanks to everybody. And
thank you, Alan. Thanks.
Yeah,
Then
I'll be catching a plane shortly.
Will take us in a completely different perspective. Professor Zeljko Stevic is from University of East Sarajevo. He is going to talk about the possibility of application of MCDM models for sustainable transport modeling. He is an associate professor at the University of East Sarajevo, Faculty of Transport and Traffic Engineering in Dipol, and Vice Dean for Science Research and Entrepreneurship. His interests include logistics, supply chain management, multimodal and intermodal transport, traffic engineering, soft computing, multi-criteria decision-making problems, rough set theory, sustainability, fuzzy set theory, nitrosophic set theory. He has published over than 200 papers. In all of his research publications, he has provided a very good application study and practical contributed to solving different problems in transportation, logistics, supply chain management, traffic engineering, economy, etc. He is recognized as world's top 2% scientist for 2020, 21, and 22 as per Stanford University. He is a member of program committee for. Sorry, Alan, you're mute, please. Member of program committee for specific programs for Republic of Srpska in Horizon 2020 and guest editor for many special issues organized in World of Science Journal. So without further ado, Prof. Stevic, please share your presentation.
I hope that you hear me.
Yes, we can. Now go to perfect. Okay, you are good to go. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for invitations to be here today, and it's a pleasure to take participation in such prestigious webinar with all speakers. Professor Mostafa have introduced me, so I will try to be short and concise. I will try to give one review and different view on this webinar, and my presentation will be possibility of application of multi-criteria decision-making models for sustainable transport modeling. And can be said that I'm expert in operational research and especially in developing and applications of MCDM models in transportation, logistics, and similar areas. So in today modern conditions of operating various fields, adequate decision making is needed on the one hand and challenge on the other. In conditions where there is constant search for better, faster, and more efficient solutions, it is unacceptable to apply approach that make wrong decision because in that way a chain of negative values is created. So we need adequate input parameters and adequate team of experts to can receive precise and optimal decision. Everyday decision-making requires consideration of various influencing factors. Important tools for solving and supporting such problems are MCDM approach, most often in combination with uncertainty theory or other approaches. On this slide, I will show some developed multi-criteria decision-making models and approaches developed by me and my colleagues around the world in the last 7 years. So we can see that we have methods for determining criteria weights. So I have developed some extensions of AHP method, best first methods, Pipretia or Svara method. Also, I have developed with my two colleagues one CRISP method, full constant method for determining criteria weights. In another here we have COPRAS, simple activating method, VASPAS, MABAC, EDAS based on Minkowski space, ARAS range of value, and Marcus method. This method belongs to methods for alternative rating, and my CRISP method is Marcus developed 4 years ago, and that is very well cited in all areas of science. So in total, we have 3 CRISP methods, many fuzzy approaches, and currently more than 50 developed approaches I can show all on this slide. So I will present only a few methods, and after that we'll give some examples of their applications related to topics of this webinar. Full constant method, or acronym FUCOM, consists of 3 simple steps. In first steps, criteria from a predefined set of evaluations should be ranked. The rankings performed according to significance of criteria, starting from criterion that is expected to have the highest weight coefficient to the criterion of last significance. That means that we need to form expert group because it is usually that we have group decision making. Individual decision making can be said that is past. So for each decision, we need to form a group of experts for a large experience in topic of exploration. So expert or decision making should, in the second step of this method, to rank criteria using developed scales. Also, what is important with this method, it is important that decision makers can use any number, for example, from 1 to 9, or 1 to 7, or 1 to 5, depending of scale. But also this method allows to decision makers to use decimal place. Of course, in this method, some of criteria can be equal importance. In the third step, we should satisfy 2 conditions. The ratio of weight questions is equal to comparative priority among observed criteria defined in previously step, and final values of weight coefficient should satisfy condition of mathematical transitivity. full consistency method have deviation from full consistency method, and it almost all application with this method, deviation from full consistency is 0. So that means that we have a full consistency in decision making. Final step of this method has been shown in this slide, and I would like to make some short comparison between some popular and previously published methods. Probably we all know for HP methods developed by Thomas Sati 40 years ago, and best worst method developed 9 years ago. So in that table we can see advantage of Foucault method. For example, in HP method, if we have 9 criteria, decision makers or experts need to make 36 number of pairs comparison. That is a large number, and often when decision maker using scales and HP method, constant degree of consistency is more than 10%, but should be less. After that, it is important to say that deviation from full consistency in Foucault method is 0, while in AHP is 10% of 0.1. We can see that Foucault method has only n-1. What that means? If we have 9 criteria, we will have only 8 comparisons. So process of evaluation of each problem is more simple. The second method is Marcus method, based on defining a relation between alternatives and reference values, ideal and anti-ideal alternatives. On the basis of the defining the relationships, the utility functions of alternatives are determined, and compromise range is made in relation to ideal and anti-ideal solutions. The first step is formation on initial decision matrix, and step 2 is formation on extended initial matrix by defining the ideal and anti-ideal solution. Those solutions depending of type of criteria. If criteria belongs to benefit group, then ideal solution will have maximum value. If criteria belongs to cost group and preference is minimization, will be minimum values in ideal solution. Third step refers to normalization of extended initial matrix. Of course, this step is also related to a group of criteria related to type of criteria, cost of benefit. The next step, we should determination weighted matrix. When we need to multiplications previously calculated values with the significance of criteria coefficients, for example, calculated with Foucault method or some another method for criteria determined. Next steps, calculation utility degree of alternatives, whereas represent the sum of elements weighted matrix. So step 6, determination utility functions of alternatives using the following equations, and utility functions in relation to ideal and anti-ideal solutions are determined by applying the following equations. And the last step is ranking alternatives, where the alternative with must high value are the best options. Because I said at the beginning of these presentations, very often science and the whole world need faster, better. So operational research, multi-criteria decision making field is often required combinations and integration with fuzzy logic, theory set, or intersoft set. So in this slide, we have basic operations with fuzzy numbers, triangular fuzzy numbers. So we can see that subtractions and divisions of this number are different in comparison with common crisp number. Also, very important part of this methodology are set numbers, and set numbers are ordered pair or fuzzy numbers. And fuzzy numbers, A is first component represent the fuzzy limit of variable x, while fuzzy number B is the second component representing the possibility of first component. So we should to use those equations to converting the whole evaluations of expert in group decision into set numbers. And the last method for is SVARA for determining criteria weights in SVARA, improved fuzzy SVARA. First steps, put the criteria in the scanning order according to their expected significance or importance. Step 2, identify relative lowest importance of criterion in relation to previous one and repeat it for each subsequent criterion. Define fuzzy coefficient using the following equations. Define obtained weights. And what is important? It is important to note that decision makers should use this developed scale for improved fuzzy SVARA method. On this slide, I have selected some my publications related to topics of this webinar. So the first is publication in expert system with application integrate decision support model for regional transport infrastructure programs based on performance assessment. The second, intelligent novel improved FARA D rough Marcos algorithm for selection construction machinery for sustainable construction of road infrastructure. Intelligent fuzzy model based on D and set numbers for power selection. Integrated model for road freight transport firm selecting third-party logistics using spherical fuzzy set. Published transportation third-party logistic and transportations review. And last, a hybrid fuzzy model for selection of parking lots of vehicles with dangerous goods, published engineering application of artificial intelligence. Those journals are Q1 category in Web of Science. On this slide, we can show some short review of applications multi-criteria decision model for various topics. For example, we can see location of study, which methods has been applied or methods have been applied, findings of that study, criteria for evaluations, alternatives, and reference for that. For example, multi-criteria decision-making model can be applied for assessment level environmental sustainability of engineering projects for construction of transport infrastructure structure, assessment selection of sustainable construction materials, sustainable assessment of various model constructions, techniques, selection of location to build a bridge, selection of optimal combination of groundwork machines, compared some strategies employed in development of sustainable road maintenance police, and many others. In this study, we have used a combination of improved fuzzy SFARA methodology and fuzzy Marcos to evaluate and develop model for ranking regional transport infrastructure programs based on performance assessment. This study has been in a country with transitions. So the phase 1 is determining criteria weights using improved FASA methodology. Phase 2 is application of fuzzy Marcos methodology, which with each of steps, and the third stage is sensitivity analysis, verifications of developed model through change of criteria, weights, utilization, rank reversal problem, comparisons with other methods. For example, in this study, the aim of objective is ranking regional transport infrastructure program based on performance assessment. We had 5 criteria: institutional arrangement, leadership, equality in decision making, available finance, monitoring and evaluations, and we have 4 alternatives represented that regional programs. The next study has been related to selections of power for first category of roads. So we can see on this slide 12 alternatives with some characteristics of them. Also, we can see on this slide criteria for evaluation those previously shown powers. For example, main criteria speed, criteria technological group of criteria related to mentioning economic ecological group of criteria. So we take it in account all important criteria and formed a group of experts with at least 10 years experience in topic. So we can see, for example, transport speed, drill speed, tank capacity, dimensions of powers, weights, gas emissions, and another. This slide shows results of proposed methodology, and we can see ranking with final results within proposed methodology. So these models are very important because can give to managers or in some companies related for transportation fields or transportation planning can give good proposal or recommendations for decision making. And the last study is one of pioneer study in Europe, and it is related to development model for selection of parking lots for vehicles with dangerous goods on highway network in Serbia. So this is one diagram flow First stage, theoretical research. We have defining research gaps, defining research gaps in Serbia, defining possibility for improvement. The second stage represents the data collections, defining criteria for evaluation, potential locations, data collected forming the database, and expert assessment after it. The third and main stage of this study was development novel fuzzy Prepretia Z, fuzzy Marcus Z model, and selection of location for parking vehicles with dangerous goods. We have used the application of fuzzy Prepretia Z model for calculations of criteria weights. We must to note that we have used Domby fuzzy operator because we have group decision making in for averaging of criteria coefficients obtained for each expert. We need to use some of operators. We have used fuzzy Domby operator, and we have selected 28 locations from 92 potential using this methodology. After that, we have made verifications test and made conclusions and directions for continuing research. After this, we have applied GIS model, and in order to evaluate scenarios and make the best solutions for parking lots on available place on highway network. Criteria in this study were distance from cabin place, protections, environment, distance from weather resource, properties, and infrastructure available. This picture shows a map of highway network in Serbia and placed parking lots for vehicle of dangerous good. This table represents sections highways with their characteristics and recurrent number of locations. In total, we have 6 road sections, and we have developed 12 different models. Why? Because we have 6 road sections and 2 directions. So we have 12 models. The total length of this network, or highway network, is approximately 1,000 kilometers, and for that length we need 28 locations. This figure represents the selected locations. Black and red points represent the locations depending from directions on highway. So we have in total 14 plus 14 equal 28 locations. In general, multi-criteria decision-making model is very often used in field of transportations or sustainability or any another related field. So my conclusion remarks can be that multi-criteria decision-making can be applied for evaluation selections, any type of vehicles, for example, sustainability, urban mobility plans, the transportation projects, parcel lockers for delivery and last mile, traffic safety, road sections for evaluation from different point for selection of some infrastructure projects, construction machinery for select, for example, drones for last for urban mobility and urban delivery, developing transportation programs, adopting transportation strategies at all. Thank you for your attention. I hope that I was short and concise, and also hope that my presentations can help from some another aspect that we can maybe together do some together studies.
Thank you very much, Prof. STRg. That was very informative presentation. I think it's very important that we consider this part which is lacking in our decision making, that we depend on math and engineering to make decisions rather than just common sense and experience. So you provided us with a lot of tools which are really very important to be considered by the decision makers while they are looking into either maintaining, developing, or planning road networks. I don't see questions in the Q&A session and no hands, so just go by the screen if there are any hands. Nothing. So, colleagues, if you still have a question or two, you can just drop them in the Q&A session. With that, I would like to thank you very much, Prof. Zeljko Stevic, and appreciate your participation. And we jump into our last but not least presenter, Dr. Samuel Abejadi from CSIR. He is going to talk about something completely different. Now he's taking us from on the road to under the road, looking into adaptive road pavement monitoring, leveraging on sensors and AI for climate resilient infrastructure. He holds a DEng specializing in transportation engineering from CUT Free State. He joined CSIR in October 23 as a principal researcher in the smart mobility sector. Prior to that, he was working as a senior sustainable transportation lecturer at Walter C. Solo University, Eastern Cape. He has two inventions in pavement technology, portable recycled asphalt plastic pavement machine and plastic asphalt mixers. So without further ado, Dr. Abejadi, please welcome and share your presentation. Sam? We can't hear you, Sam.
Yeah, good afternoon, Prof. Can you hear me now?
Soft, please be closer to the microphone.
Okay, I'm much closer to the microphone and I'll try to speak out loud. Is it better now?
Yeah, that's a little bit
Lovely,
better.
lovely. I'm just quickly going to presentation mode. Can you see my presentation?
Great, go ahead.
Lovely. Okay, so just very quickly, I will start presenting on something completely much different from smart, sustainable, and multi-criteria decision-making system. So we're looking at now, how do we integrate basically all of these systems into an adaptive solution for the roads? I saw our presenter from Sanra was speaking about assets. So how sustainable could our assets be facing climate changes? And you saw the pictures about the flood ratings. So how are we able to adapt to global climate changes, looking at our pavements, the infrastructure, and the holistic sum of everything while considering environmental effects? So which means we need to start looking at adaptive system architecture for pavement monitoring systems. Of course, we now have to talk about instrumentation, sensors, technology, and also inclusivity with regards to, shall I say, computing, IoTs, and machine learning and artificial intelligence. So we also would consider its adaptation strategies and its applicability with regards to case studies, scenarios, and projects where these systems could be piloted in some way. So, without wasting much time, with the increase in climate variability all across the country globally, our pavements face extremely significant aggravated stresses resulting from unforeseen effects. Weather effects, whether it's temperature, whether it's moisture, whether it's floods, like we have seen, whether it's increased traffic. Now we're trying to look at technologies to reduce traffic with the use of UAMs. But even if you look at those things, how efficient would our infrastructure, even if you create the skyports and the heliports, how efficient will they be able to cater for environmental changes? Which means that we will always constantly be faced with heat waves, heavy rainfalls, floods, freezing temperatures, cold snaps, and all of these scenarios together can deteriorate the pavement. Or, for example, even if the pavement was perfectly designed for whether it's a flexible pavement or rigid pavement for 20 years or 30 years, whatever, there could be an aggravated delamination of that pavement before its expected design alive, which means we now have to start looking at different methods, other ways of critically looking at our pavement design, analyzing them. And this brings us to the objective whereby it's to actually find an innovative approach that we are able to use to monitor road pavements using cutting edge sensor technologies combined with artificial intelligence to create resilient and, if possible, self-healing pavement systems that can ensure infrastructure to be able to adapt to climate changes. I would just like to pose a question quickly. How efficient are our pavement design guides and manuals able to adapt to varying climate changes? We could see Alan was very stressed about the fact that he said we still go back to using TRH4. I mean, it's just a catalog on a page. Is that still efficient? Having done everything smart, we're trying to talk about smart, we're trying to talk about sustainability, yet we'll still go back to the pavement design manuals. Is that still efficient enough? I'm just going to pause that there for us to ponder on. Which means that aside from those manuals, TRH4, whether you're using your TRH4 empirical methods of design, whether you're using mechanistic empirical methods of design, whether you're using the AASHTO 1992, whichever method you're using, it still might not be sufficient to accurately design pavements. Whether you're looking at rotting failure, cracking failure, yes, it's fine. Those equations, fatigue rotting and fatigue cracking, they are all perfect. However, are we able to actually start discretizing in smaller segments the initiation of failure? This takes us to a different dimension where we start talking about Griffith's relationship with crack tip growth, with unloading stress wave models happening to our pavement that we can't necessarily see. Now, I won't talk much about fracture energy here. Of course, that takes us to lots of mathematical functions that our last presenter did. We can start looking at various types of modelings and simulations. However, how do these models connect to the pavement, and how does the pavement and the model connect to your environment? So, in trying to maintain this pavement optimal conditions, this was sourced by Ashraf, we could see various effects here: climate change, natural disaster, storm, surge, all of these things. This is just a snippet, but this is not a wholesome part. There are other effects beyond this whole system that could deteriorate our pavement, which means that if we look at this report still by Amir Shayed, we could start looking at various, shall I say, simulation or various reasoning techniques that has been developed, looking at your VCIs, visual condition assessment, roughness index, pavement condition ratings, pavement condition index, pavement serviceability index, all of these things together. Are they still able to give us a confidence level in determining the performance and the functionality of our pavement within its design life? No matter the type of technology we use, is it still able to give us sufficient information about what we want to gather? Which means we now have to start going into looking at other variables that are around us that we still couldn't see or that we're ignoring, which has to do with our temperature, climate, temperature gradients, precipitation, rainfall, flooding cases, runoffs, as well as solar radiation. We'll be like, wow, we're talking about solar radiation and pavement. How do they connect to each other? Of course, they do connect to each other. You're going to be seeing that in the coming slides. You can begin to see that if this is an example of our pavement, you've got your asphalt layer, your subbase, your subgrade, however you want to look at it. How does the pavement absorb heat, and how does the pavement radiate the heat back that is absorbed? How is the moisture susceptibility of the pavement as well? The convection index, the latent heat transfer. We're not even talking about traffic loading now. We're just talking about environmental conditions. These are also forms of loading that are affecting the pavement, but we kind of like, no, it's okay. Well, there are some pavement guides and manuals that talk about wet region, dry region. So we just talk about wet and dry, or semi-wet or semi-dry. But is that enough? Does it give us sufficient data to actually analyze our pavement? We now need to start looking at what the volumetric heat capacity of the pavement. We now start looking at what the convection coefficient index of pavement. Of course, there are models that has been designed by a couple of researchers, but we are now saying, okay, if these models have been dissolved, which particular model is most efficient? We're looking at wind speed. Yes, we're not into geography, but yes, wind speed does affect the pavement because it guarantees the cooling effect of the pavement when it gets heated up by the sun, or of course, solar radiation effects. This leads us to a completely new concept to identifying properties of pavement, not necessarily looking at specific gravity, relative density, and all of those things, absorption, ACVs. No. What is the albedo constant of that pavement? What is the emissivity constant of that pavement? Which means, how well is the pavement able to absorb heat or emit heat, and how well is it able to cool itself? That's now what we need to start thinking if we now want to synchronize all of these scenarios together: smart and sustainable and analysis. We now have to start discretizing, going into the smallest minute fraction or fragment of pavement performance, where we start looking at surface temperature of the pavement, the actual temperature of the pavement, the underlying layer temperature of the pavement, the moisture absorption of the pavement, the moisture ingress within the pavement, which gives us an indication, of course, with solar radiation, the thermal conductivity of that pavement as well. So we now have to start looking at other variables in our design: thermal conductivity, specific heat capacity of the pavement, not just specific gravity only, thermal diffusivity of the pavement as well. So you can start looking at it, whether you're looking at it from asphalt concrete or plain concrete or even the subsoil. They will all vary in various fields. I'm just going to pause on all of those for now. Let's come back to our climate. Let's come back to our environment. If we start looking at wind speed, like, oh, what do I have to do with wind speed? I mean, we are doing pavements here. If we start looking at temperature, okay, atmospheric temperature, air temperature, okay, what's happening here? How do we now model our pavement with regards to our environmental data, taking actual environmental effects for that particular, which means we now have to start working hand in hand with weather stations, basically, and start modeling and start forecasting and able to compare what was the temperature from last year, how does it differ from this year, what is the percentage difference, and how can we forecast pavement temperature or atmospheric temperature or humidity of the environment, or for example radiation of that particular area now, next year, and in future years to come. So we have to start looking at various different types of variables: humidity of the pavement, of course, looking at back calculating and forward calculating effects of changing temperatures, changing humidity levels, changing solar radiation levels of the pavement, and now looking at everything together in a wholesome manner. How does the radiation changed from last year? Whether you're looking at the shortwave radiation or you're looking at the long wave radiation, how have they changed over time from last year to this year? Are we having a hotter seasons last year compared to this year, or what's going on? So if we take a complete interface of all of these scenarios acting together, now imagine this is our pavement. Our pavement right now is very confused. The pavement is like, what's happening to me? I was designed for a particular PG grade in 64, PG grade in 70, but this is beyond me. I can't cope. So we now need to listen to the pavement. That brings us to where we start instrumenting the pavement and understanding the climate of that area, understanding the region. So if we take a wholesome, shall I say, map, we can now start analyzing our map with regards to the weather. You can see the very red places means that it's really hot. It's going to be temperate. And you can start seeing the cooling effects and the way the precipitation will grow. So if we're looking at the weathers in the evening, weather forecast next week, next month, how does the weather forecast affect your own daily plan? And how does the weather forecast also affect the performance of the pavement? We now need to start finding alternative ways. So here is just a model that I kind of like developed for Pretoria, where I had the weather forecast for Pretoria, and we tried to use some model equations to check the relationship between the convective heat flux of the pavement and the heat transfer coefficient of the pavement. Well, this is for Pretoria, so it will definitely, these graphs will vary when you go to like other areas or other hotter areas or across Africa with other regions, or even in cold countries like you've got in Alaska and the polar regions. This will now lead you to determining various other effects with regards to the behavior and the strength of the pavement with respect to asphalt modulus and the resilient modulus of the subgrade, where we now start talking about the humidity, moisture ingress, saturation coefficient of the pavement. And of course, we now start looking at the relationship between the net heat flux of the pavement versus solar radiation. I'll say for me, we need to start looking at this. So, which means that in as much as we start looking at all of these environmental conditions, we have to apply them to the behavior of the pavement. How will our pavement behave to temperature? How will our pavement behave to snowfall? Of course, we already have established knowledge on viscoelastic damage of pavement. But beyond that, what else are we looking at? Does wind speed and the wind direction affect the pavement? Of course, it does. It affects the cooling effect of the pavement. How fast and how susceptible the pavement is able to cool. Because if the pavement is able to cool quicker, it means that we would not have the pavement deteriorating faster. So these are now various coefficients that we have to start looking at. So the weather data definitely will affect pavement temperature fields by influencing the energy exchange at the pavement surface. Of course, we now have to start looking at the climatic effects. But if we look at climatic effects, are we only looking at just the weather forecast? But we now have to look at intrinsic properties. We have to start looking at instrumentation of the pavement. And one very key important part is the type of material that we are going to use to design those pavements. Are they climate resilient materials? It's okay to have your G1s, your G2s, or your classification for your aggregates, dolomite, whatever you want to use. Quartzite, whatever you want to use. Are we yes, they have got the right properties, okay. They meet up to the specific strength, yes, okay. But do they have the effects to repel or absorb heat? That's very critical in our design of pavements, which means that the selection of pavement materials for climate resilient infrastructure must or needs to consider range of environmental and durability factors, particularly looking at what the interaction between solar radiation and pavement performance. Of course, we now start looking at pavement albedo constant, which is the reflectivity property, and the emissivity property, our ability to radiate heat. Because these two key points play a critical role in influencing pavement surface temperature, thermal stresses, and of course, wholesomely pavement longevity. So just a brief definition to understand what's albedo constant. What's Dr. Sam saying? It's just a measure of the surface ability to reflect solar radiation. which means a higher albedo constant means more reflectivity and less absorption of heat, which means our pavement won't absorb much heat longer than necessary. And of course, it will then be a function of the cooling effect, the wind speed. They might have to go hand in hand. Then look at emissivity of the pavement, the efficiency with which a surface would emit thermal radiation. So which means higher emissivity values indicate the material can radiate or absorb heat back into the environment. Critical. We now start looking at heat flux and thermal stresses, which means we need to start paying very close attention to solar effects. We are talking about global warming, climate changes, and all of these things. We need to start looking at adaptive translation of all of these effects into pavement design. Are our design manuals considering all of these effects? Are there provisions within the design guides? Or are we still facing our old aged, well, some of them not so old, but previous design manual guides? Well, they're still efficient, no doubt, but are they able to withstand current climate changes? So just in summary, we can now start looking at the relationship between the albedo constant and heat absorption, and the relationship between emissivity and heat dissipation, which means we need to critically start considering the type of material that we use, because the type of material will affect the pavement's performance. Of course, we're not trying to say that the design methodology shouldn't be reviewed. Yes, but how do we start looking at material selections? Because if you select, if you choose a material that is able to retain heat longer than necessary, the pavement life would be shortened. And of course, this speaks about the heat dissipation. So how will your pavement absorb and reflect heat? And then higher wind speeds can efficiently, effectively lower the pavement surface temperature by what? Enhancing the convective heat flux, which means we have cooler pavement effects. But if we go to urban areas, are we able to have sufficient wind effects? Because we've got high-rise buildings. How well are our pavements cooling themselves? Which means we need to look at instrumentation strategies, water infiltration, moisture ingress of the pavement, and other environmental properties. Of course, we still have to account for the strain levels of that particular pavement, which means the challenges, for example, means there needs to be a proper catalog for the selection of material properties based on strength, performance, gradation, and the age. Of course, now we're looking at fossil studies for materials that we're going to use for pavement. Is it applicable as a roads materials engineer? Well, we have to find out. So having said all of these things, we need to build a system architecture that encompasses both that aspect and sensor technology, where we have to start looking at temperature sensors, moisture sensors, strain gauges, acoustic sensors, able to give us information about what's happening to the pavement in real time, so that we're able to now start making models as the goal. Then we have to build this architecture system in such a way that we have sufficient data collection and transmission, where we're able to run those pavement design models in real time with respect to real climate conditions, solar radiation, temperature gradient changes, precipitation effects, wind speed, and moisture ingress. We now need to build an architecture system that can harness and incorporate and integrate all of this in a smart manner to be able to process and give us accurate results, or I would say confidence level on the performance of our pavement. And of course, you can look at this looking at artificial intelligence driven data analysis systems, where you look at your predictive analysis, no doubt about the VCIs, the calculation of these effects. Okay, they're very key, but are we able to model them? We now have to start looking at sensor technologies, photographic systems, where we can start taking pictures of our pavements and model those pictures based on the crack propagation of the pavement, to check the picture that of the pavement I took last week or the picture of pavement I took last year. Does it differ from the picture I'm taking now? What has been the changes? Has there been increase in the cracks or has there been reduction in the cracks? And just like our Samuel person said, he said, no, they would rather want to attend to those kind of summer good roads because it's cheaper, which means you now have a cheaper way of maintaining your roads instead of waiting for the roads to completely deteriorate, so that your maintenance cost is reduced based on machine learning models. And of course, anomaly detection, whereby you now begin to see unusual patterns within your pavement model, whether you're looking at it from the sensor data or you're looking at it from the pictorial data that you're collecting. Which means we now start designing adaptive algorithms that are able to manipulate or integrate climate impact analysis systems in such a way that it's able to model fluctuations and predictions of climate conditions towards creating responsive modeling and self-learning system, whereby the pavement is able to now start learning by itself how to heal itself. Of course, it gives you warning alerts, no doubt. So you're going to have, shall I say, trigger alerts, warning alerts, and failure alerts. Then how do you respond to that becomes a responsive system that we now need to start looking at as pavement engineers. So we can start looking at climate resilience and adaptation strategies from a holistic perspective, where how do we look at maintenance strategies? How do we design our maintenance strategies? And what materials are we using for our maintenance operations? Are we just selecting material because it's the most available material? Yes, I mean, cost-wise, it is ideally useful. But what are we doing in an innovative manner to actually model and prepare our pavements for the unforeseen scenarios with the climate? I think I went a bit too fast. Okay, no, not too fast. Okay. So we can start looking at climate adaptation strategies, automated warning alert, like I did mention, and looking at dynamic traffic management models, where we are not just looking at the environment only, but we are integrating all of this into one system, which is able to give us inclusive, integrated, sustainable, smart mobility systems. Of course, one of the presenters spoke about route optimization. So they all connect together here. Luckily, we didn't even share presentations, but we're almost speaking the same thing. So we now have to start looking at it, our pavement, as doctors, having a stethoscope. Are we able to listen to our pavement? Are we able to hear what our pavement is saying? Are we able to understand our pavement and cater for effects that will happen to our pavement? Are we able to take antibiotics? Are we able to take antibiotics for our pavement? Are we able to take, shall I say, like your preventive medication for a pavement? Are we able to do that to our pavements? Very, very critical, because the climate is constantly ever changing. In conclusion, we need to integrate all of this with autonomous systems, which means as much as we're going to be instrumenting our roadways, how does our roadways integrate and connect to electronic vehicles? We talk about vehicle-to-vehicle communication, vehicle-to-driver communication, vehicle-to-user communication. What communication protocols are we having? Of course, in real time, to enhance performance of our pavement. Then we now have to look at scaling, whereby we now start looking at how do we adopt this as a system within our pavement agencies, like your road transport agencies, country-wise. I'll stop there and ask us one last parting question. Are our current design manuals and guides adapting to climate strategies? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sam, for this wonderful presentation and all the thoughts about how to monitor our pavement smartly. Colleagues, any questions from the participants or our panelists? Any hands? Okay, I think people started to feel tired. Okay, I think there is one question. Thanks for wonderful presentation. How can the excessive heat absorption in pavement be minimized? Sam, can you hear me?
Yes, Prof. Yes, Prof.
Yeah. Can I repeat the question for you?
Yes, please.
How can the excessive heat absorption in pavement be minimized?
Of course, we have to look at the type of material that we're going to be using. So if we already, for example, can't, if it's for an existing roadway and it's emitting so much heat, you could minimize this by having coatings on the roads, like coating the road with some slurry or some shall I say some seal, so that it's able to reduce the rate at which the pavement will absorb heat. By so doing, you are now able to reduce and minimize the heat absorbed by the pavement. So it has to do with the, should I say, the material that the pavement is being designed with. So you could look at that from the type of pavement. So a light colored gravel would of course repel heat, so it would not absorb heat. But then you ask a question. I mean, the bitumen itself is dark, which means the asphalt will always absorb heat. Yes, that's true. However, in its operation in the solar system or in the environment, we now need to start designing or looking at other types of binders or modification of our binders to create systems or create materials that are able to repel the heat. Of course, you can now look at glass asphalt, because if you look at glass asphalt, it has this bright, should I say, bright color, so it can repel the heat because you're now replacing the fines with glass. Or you can now maybe have an overlay of some additive over that asphaltic layer to reduce the rate of absorption of heat. I don't know if I've answered your question.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I think it's all about the materials, because basically, if we are talking about albedo and emissivity, it's mainly about the materials. And it's not about using one type of material, it's about the interaction between the different materials we put in our pavement structure.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Dr. Apajedi, for this wonderful presentation. May you please stop sharing? And this will bring us to the end of our webinar today. It was really very informative. We went through 5 different presenters. They talked about smart and sustainability from different perspectives. So Professor Das focused more on smart and what does it mean and how can we use technology to have more smart tools in our city, while Deo talked more about sustainability, and we could easily see that the overlap between the two was very, very significant. And then Alan questioned our understanding of smart and tried to introduce us to more of the philosophy of smart rather than the technology. Before Zeleko talked more about how to use modeling smartly. So to arrive to smart decisions, you need to use smart modeling. And Sam gave us a very, very comprehensive presentation on how to apply the smart tools into monitoring our pavement, which is basically the first step to improve, because if you don't know what's happening, you can't improve. So I don't see any other questions or hands raised. With that, I would like really to thank you again and extend the invitation to everyone to be part of our team at UKZN. It is really very pleasing to host you either virtually or in person. And with that, I would like to wish all of you the best of the rest of your day. Thank you. And this webinar is now concluded. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, colleagues. Thanks, Mohammed. It was great webinar.
Thank you very much, Glenn, for your contributions. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
Goodbye.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you, Sam.